Thank you all for being here, and I was pleased, and I tried to take the best notes I could on the different regions and what you're working on. And with regard to every region, I think the ideas are tremendous. I do want to just give you a little bit of framework on what I have been thinking about in terms of this effort. And I'll go back to just my time in office now, 7.5 years. I have, through the Business Council or through the local economic development folks or just on my own, I've had a number of occasions to reach out to companies that I think may be considering Wyoming, or I think they should consider Wyoming. In those conversations, each one's a little bit different depending upon the company and what their needs are. But they want to know what your tax structure is, and some of them say, if we move to Wyoming, would you give us a break on income tax? And you say, absolutely, zero. We'll give you zero, just for you. They want to know about infrastructure. They certainly want to know about education. But without exception, they want to know, if we move here, can you meet our workforce needs? Because at the heart of success of any business is you have to have the talent. You have to have those people show up day in and day out that are going to do the job. And you can have all the rest. You can have low taxes, reasonable rules and regulations, you can have infrastructure, but if you don't have the workforce, they're not coming. And we had one particular occasion where a very large international company was considering moving to Wyoming. And we outcompeted all other states in every respect, except at the end they said, we wanted to come to Wyoming, but Governor, we don't think you can supply the workforce we need. And it just crushed me, because I know the workforce is here, I know the work ethic that's here in Wyoming, I know we have the talent, but they weren't convinced that we had the numbers. And you hate to lose out when you can out-compete in every other area, and you say, we don't have the workforce, we don't have the training that we need. So the work you're doing here is critical, and I think really importantly, it's going to be relevant. And I want to talk about relevance a little bit. A number of years ago, I think my second year in office, we started taking a look, as Representative Colley knows, at the University of Wyoming Engineering College at the University of Wyoming. And it's a land-grant school, as you know. And land-grant schools, President Lincoln, thank you for land-grant schools. The two things on land-grant schools are agriculture and mechanical arts, known as engineering. And because we are a land-grant, university's a land-grant, it was important to me, and I think important to many, to have a really good engineering college. And so we decided we were going to have a Tier 1 engineering college at the University of Wyoming. And that means different things to different people, but we wanted to put in money from the legislature and really elevate it. And the legislature appropriated in excess of $100 million to elevate the engineering college. But then the question is, how do you make it Tier 1? And I put together a group, a task force, to look at that. And what was interesting to me is when they started out, the task force said, this is great. You've got a great facility here to be improved upon. It's fantastic that the legislature clearly supports this effort with a significant amount of funds. But in order to make it work, it's not just about the buildings or the equipment, it's about the relevance of the education that people are getting. You think about just in the oil and gas industry and fracking and how 10 years ago nobody heard of 2-mile horizontal drills. And it's changing at a pace. And the engineers that came in on that task force, they're in industry, in large industry, the oil and gas companies they say our complaint with engineering colleges across the country is they're teaching things that were relevant 50 years ago. They are not teaching what is relevant now. So currently there's an amazing amount of changes going on in the world. And how do we have relevant workforce training? How do we have relevant education for that? And to give you a more scary example, because I think it's changing quickly now, as part of an Endow meeting we had a couple of months ago in Jackson, one of the presenters who works on artificial intelligence from Singularity University came and gave a presentation, and he said, the point of singularity as it relates to computers, that is, the point in time when computers can outthink humans is coming up. It's coming up in the 2025, 2030 time. What does that mean for workforce? What does it mean when computers, by themselves, let alone collectively, have the capacity to outthink us? My first thought is, I certainly hope somebody knows how to unplug the plug. But secondly, what it shows is we have to make sure the training and the workforce and the sectors that we're looking at now, that next generation, is relevant now, but the pace is going to continue to change very rapidly, and it has to change. So I was excited to be here today to hear your ideas. One, I want just the different regions. Your time frames are amazing, because in government so often, when you say June and then July or October, I'm asking which year? You all are talking now, which I think is absolutely phenomenal, because it is needed now. But two, I think what you can do with the models you're creating, and whether you chose healthcare, whether you chose recreation, whether you chose manufacturing, the model you can create isn't just to be relevant now, but how to keep up with that pace of change in the industry. And that requires this model, and it also requires at the front of the course is the business and industry sector. They have to be at the table. They have to be the ones saying, this is the training we need. This is what we need in terms of infrastructure. Because as Director Cox actually, he and I discussed when I got here this morning, the fact is government can show up at your door. We can say, hey, we're here to help, and here's the training we're going to provide you. But if it's not relevant, it's not useful. And it's not just about training. It's, we may knock on the door and say, we've got some training. They say, you know what we really need is work on infrastructure. We have to have a mechanism in the state of Wyoming in every one of these regions where we can hear from the leadership in business and industry on what they need. And then we need to be able to be nimble enough to meet those needs in a way that provides them assurance that they will have the business that they have, that they can grow their business, and it also provides assurances for those companies that we may want to recruit to the state of Wyoming. A couple of the points I want to make from some of the teams. On healthcare, I'm so pleased to see some of you tackling healthcare. Of the things that I am now starting to think about, things that I'm really happy with in my 7.5 years or 8 years, and things where I think there needs to be a lot of work. Healthcare is absolutely one of them. Because we can do everything right, but if you have donut holes in the state where families, individuals cannot get good health care, good luck with economic development. It's something that Endow is certainly looking at. It's something the state needs to continue to work on. And it's very difficult. We have great providers in the state of Wyoming, but how do we get more providers? How do we get into telemedicine and telehealth? How do we make improvements on that? I'm very pleased to see some of you tackling that. Manufacturing, let me just say, we in Wyoming love manufacturing. And we've improved the number of manufacturing jobs in the state of Wyoming. But manufacturing in a natural resource state is an absolute wonderful fit because we have so many of the raw products to make different products with. So if we can continue to expand manufacturing, it's such a win-win for the state of Wyoming. I think the group from Teton County, I think you're Region 9, is that right? Region 8? You're looking at me. You're the region, I don't know. I know you're not Region 12, you are in the region. You all talked about the hospitality, and one of the things we've worked on in the last couple of years is outdoor recreation, which is, I think, under the same umbrella as hospitality. Think about minerals and tourism and ag and as our top three. But I want us to start thinking, when we talk about our industries in Wyoming, let's not stop at those three. Let's talk about the technology sector in the state of Wyoming, which has grown magnificently over the last 7 years. Let's talk about hospitality, tourism, and outdoor recreation. Let's talk about the financial industry as well. And let's talk about healthcare. As not that they are our biggest, but they are important to the state of Wyoming. In the different regions, you all are going to be tackling those different sectors. And the ability for you to connect with your local businesses and industries, I think is going to be so important. And the timeline we have is so important as well. And so Director Cox, I just want to say again, I want to thank you for this. As I announced in Dow economically needed diversity options for Wyoming in November 2016. Then and even up today, one of the things when people push back on is, the state's tried to diversify in the past. It is true, we have. I have gone back and I have looked at different materials governors have received since statehood, and it's been on the list of to-dos. We've got to diversify our economy. And we need to do it for two main reasons. One is these revenue spikes we have up and down makes it extremely difficult to plan for services. Whatever the services are, and the simplistic example I give is the state in year one says you have enough people, enough money for 100 people in your nursing homes. And in year two we say, only enough for 50. It's simplistic, but that is one of the reasons, one of the main reasons is this revenue spikes up and down. It's very hard for local government as well. The second is this terrible loss of talent we have in the state of Wyoming by losing so many of our young people. You cannot have all great success if you continue to lose that talent. And there's sentimental reasons we want to keep our young people here in the state of Wyoming as well. So those in my mind are the two main reasons, but the pushback I get on it now is, we've tried this before and it hasn't worked. Let me just say, I think times have changed. One is, I think young people are no longer whispering we need to do it, they're pounding on the door. And good for them to do it. They want us to do it. Secondly, technology and the connectivity that we have in the world, I think has also changed the opportunity. In the 60s, maybe we didn't have a good opportunity, but now with connectivity, we do have that opportunity. And third, I think equally important, I see it here. You all, in a day and a half, a little less than a day and a half, have not only come up with ideas, you not only have committed, you have done it in a time frame that is relevant and important. And so when people say we can't diversify our economy in the state of Wyoming, what I say is, you're talking about Wyoming. You're talking about the state that has the smallest population. If any state can say this is the direction we want to go, certainly it is the state of Wyoming, with the people that we have here, with the connectedness that we have with one another. It requires effort, and as Director Cox said, it requires a lot of work starting now. So I thank you all for the work that you have done, but more importantly, I thank you all for the work that you will be doing. Make no question about this. You can make a difference, and you will make a difference. And what a wonderful thing to do in the state that we all love. Thank you for that. Thank you.